Hey y'all, what's up? This is Chris from Blackstone Cherry, and you're watching the Helix Hour with Eric Broadbent.
Hey, this is Vernon Reed from Living Color, and you're watching the Helix Hour.
Hey guys, my name is Gemma Jura. I'm the guitar player for Evanescence, and you're watching the Helix Hour.
Welcome to the Helix Hour, brought to you in part by Stewart Travel Guitars. See the incredible stowaway travel guitar at stewartguitars.com. Microphones for the Helix Hour are provided by Rode Microphones. Now, let's talk some Helix. Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you all. Welcome to another edition of the Helix Hour, Season 5, Episode 4. Man, we go back many seasons, all the way back to Season 1. This is a fellow that helped kick off the show. And I mean, we couldn't have a better guest to return again. He's been one of the most favorite recurring guests. We got to hang out at NAMM briefly, finally, a bucket list moment for sure. Guitarist Paul Hindmarsh. Nice to have you back, my friend. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, nice to be back as well.
Awesome.
Seems to have been a while.
It has.
So there's a lot happened since then.
I guess so. That's right. Yeah. We'll be talking about a lot of it. A new studio you've been building, and a really special guitar there. We'll be talking about later on in the program as well too. But it's just great to have you back.
Great. Yeah. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Nice. Now, how have you been holding up? I mean, for a lot of people like us, the creative type, you know, the pandemic really hasn't done a lot to hurt us as far as our normal daily lives, you know, hanging in the studio and in the dungeon, so to speak. But, you know, overall, take that aside, how you and the family been holding up?
Yeah, I mean, we both work from home anyway, so normally it's been completely fine. What we have realized is those escapes where you go for coffee or you go out and see friends, they become, we really miss them. You know, you kind of realize that even though we both work from home, and you know, it's just the loss of those little bits of time that you get with friends and family in particular that are the big misses, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a funny old time, but I've been dealing with it by eating a lot of kettle chips. So when I finally leave the house again, I'm gonna have to hit the gym. There's no doubt about that. It's just been an interesting time, hasn't it? It's been crazy.
It's been different for sure. I mean, it's made a lot of us adapt to a different lifestyle. And I was kind of creeping your Facebook page, your music Facebook page, which we've got links for as well too. Just kind of, going through if there's anything new and exciting, and just kind of prepare for the interview and stuff like that. And I saw an older photo of you playing live on stage, and you had a little bit longer hair and whatnot. And I imagine you're probably kind of missing that a little bit too, right?
Well, the long hair.
Yeah, well, a little bit longer. Is it no, not the hair. Not the no, not the hair. We both got short hair now.
Absolutely, it's great. I mean, just getting out and playing and making a noise and stuff like that. It's a great thing to do. So yeah, I'm missing that. I mean, I don't gig as much as most of the sort of people who are watching this. I dare say, my thing really is I like being at home, and I like working from home, and I like trying to figure things out, and obviously doing the videos and just trying to make music and trying to be creative. For me, it's always been a lot about just being able to create I was going to say a CD, but it's not even CDs anymore, is it? But just being able to create a product that you can sit back and listen to in a few years and record at home. That's my thing. That's what sort of that's the thing that really sort of excites me, and why things like this and Helix are just so great for that.
Exactly. That's a nice thing as well too. But even though you're not out there on the stages and whatnot, I mean, you keep so busy, which we'll be talking about throughout the program as well too, doing all these great informative demos. So it's you're performing in a sense, anyways, for the world. Anyways, it's just you don't get to see the immediate reaction unless you see the comments and things like that. You're not seeing the audience applause and things like that. But you're still performing.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I go out and do demos and stuff. So I'm lucky. I get to do demos for for NAMM and things like that to an audience full of great guitar players. I have the privilege of that. I don't get the chance to play to a bunch of drunk people in a bar who are just going to love everything that you do. It's but the NAMM crowd's always really good as well. So. It's all good, yeah.
For sure when you see the, like you say, the guitar players at NAMM and stuff like that, when they're applauding and you're like, okay, well, I've done something. It's nice to appease everybody, like the drunks in the bar, as you just mentioned. But when you impress musicians, you've done something well, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. And obviously, NAMM's it's just a different sort of thing. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was doing a demo and Stevie Wonder walked in, and it's like, how do that's not a normal situation
I know.
ever thought I would be in. You know, I mean, he wasn't interested. He didn't care. He just happened to walk in. Yeah, he walked into the room for different reasons. You know, like, but and then just seeing like people like Doug Pinnock in the crowd and stuff. You know, from King's X, he was a massive fan of. You know, so there's always that kind of you're playing a little bit, and then all of a sudden, one of your heroes is there. You know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time always.
I've had some similar experiences. I don't usually broadcast live on Facebook. I do it very infrequently, and it's just like kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall and see what happens, right? See who shows up. So one day I'm sitting there, I went live on Facebook, and the mojo was going good, felt confident, technology was working well, and then Jennifer Batten pops in the chat. I'm good friends with her, and you know, even though we're friends, and we don't, you know, it's just a friendly thing. I don't look at her as like well, actually, I look up to her huge as a guitar influence. But when she popped into the chat, I was like, oh, and I just went completely off. I saw her name and it threw me for a loop, and I just totally train wrecked my guitar playing. And I was like, oh, great. Look what happens when Jennifer Batten shows up. But I know what you mean. You see someone walk in that booth and you're like, uh-oh, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was funny you just mentioned Jennifer Batten because I had the exact same experience with her. I don't think it was this NAMM, but maybe the NAMM before. Yeah, so Jennifer Batten sort of walks in and takes a seat, you know, and it's like, oh wow, you know, like wow. Because I mean, obviously, you know, I mean, she's done so much stuff, you know. Like, but I think she liked my Facebook page shortly afterwards. So
nice.
So I must have done. Hopefully, I did something right. You know?
That's good.
I think the very first NAMM I ever went to, I was doing it. It was like a weird demo, and it was a weird scenario the way that we had everything sort of set up. It was like 2010, I think, was my first NAMM. And there was two women came in and they sat down at the back, and I'm thinking, is that Wendy and Lisa from Prince's band from the Revolution? And it was, you know, like I did the demo, and it's like, oh, this is you know, Wendy and Lisa from the Revolution. I was sitting at the back of the audience, so I've had a couple of there's been some great moments, but yeah, like you say, it sort of freaks you out a little bit. You don't sort of get people like that walking certainly into my local bars, you know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's cool though. I mean, you handle it like a champ. I mean, that comes from experience as well too. I mean, I'm back from your club days of performing. It's like you're whether you're performing for a full house, full capacity, or maybe just the wait staff, you still got to be giving it just as much as, you know, either way. And if a celebrity walks in, you got to hold your focus and continue to deliver.
Yes, we try.
Yeah.
We try.
Awesome. Let's go say hi to one.
And then obviously we were doing a demo and you walked in one day, and like this time it was like, oh, Eric.
You know what? That was a bucket list for me because I don't even know how it didn't happen the year before. But truly, it was a bucket list moment. I mean, we've talked many times on the show. I think I've had you 3 or 4 times. I think I've had you every season of the Helix Hour, I think at least once. And I've had you in Kramer Corner. And we talk a lot, but I mean, it was a real, you know, it's a difference between doing what we're doing now and, you know, shaking hands and talking in person. And that was something I promised myself. I told Junior, I said, we are not leaving NAMM without meeting Paul. And it was brief, but it was awesome.
Great. It was very brief as well.
Yeah.
And I think I saw you the previous year, and I was sitting in a cafe during NAMM with my wife, like just outside of the sort of the complex, and I saw you walk past, but it was like there was just the glass, and it was like, oh, there's Eric. And it was so
shoot!
That was the previous year. You know, so
yes.
It happened to last. Maybe. I mean, I don't even know. I don't know what's going to happen with NAMM sort of next year. You know, like, but hopefully we can make it a little bit longer this time. You know.
Yeah, well, for sure. Whenever the next NAMM is, I mean, I'm even, you know, I don't want to scare people away, but I don't even think it's going to be a NAMM. Well, who knows? And even if there is this year, I may neglect to stay back 1 year. I want to be safe. I really, really want to be safe because my better half, Sandra here, has a compromised immune system, and we're very, very over precautious when it comes to things like that. So who knows? But we will meet again for sure. There's no doubt about that. But let's go over and say hi to a bunch of really cool people. And I just noticed super chat from Frank Rashat. Thank you so much, Frank. You're such a supporter. I can't thank you enough. We've got our good friend Landshark Mark in the chat. And forgive me if I'm looking away from the camera here, but I've got my chat over on another computer here. Alec Bourne is here. Ed B is here as well too. Steven Sokup says, hey, Eric, hi, Paul. Have a great show. Paul is amazing. Agreed for sure. And people are cooking some bread in the oven. We've got some pizza in the oven. Everyone's getting some nice food ready for the day. David B.B. Benningfield is here. Richard Henry is here as well, too. Evening for him. Okay, here's a good question. And Ed B's asking, are PodGo presets compatible with Helix? Probably not so, right? And the answer to that is no, they're not compatible. But very easily, if you happen to own a Helix product and a PodGo product, you can, copy your settings, go over, just drop the amplifier in there, copy the settings, and you'll be good to go. Yeah. But you can import them. Great musician too. Ed B is saying yes, for sure he is. Let me see here. The party line, that's my beautiful Sandra Lee. She'll be sharing your links throughout the afternoon here and evening for people tuning in. Sheldon Sheladelic Fisher's here.
Nice. Fantastic.
Yes. A former guest here just a week or so back, 2 weeks back, actually. Let me see.
Yeah, so he's great. It was a shame he didn't play more through the actual show, but he's playing at the end was awesome.
I know.
He's fantastic. He's a funky man.
And I take full responsibility for that because I saw this beautiful Helix right up in the front, forefront of his shot, and there's not a cable hooked up to it. So I'm like, okay, well, he's not playing today. And meanwhile, he's plugged in PodGo all ready to go for the entire episode, and that was my fault. So I told him I'll have him back again and do some playing, like start to finish, for that matter.
Absolutely, I was sitting there waiting to steal all the licks. I just wanted all those funky Prince things, and it just didn't happen until the end.
Do you remember at NAMM when Eric Klein's on stage talking about 2.9 updates and everything like that, and when they mentioned. I totally forget the Maestro phaser. I forget the name of the phaser that's in the new update. But remember Sheldon jumping out of his seat? Did you see that?
I must have missed that. I'll be honest.
So it was the new phaser that's in and with funk, right? You need that. Yeah. I like the old script phase, Eddie Van Halen phase. But for some reason he liked this one. He jumped out of his seat.
Awesome.
It was cool.
Fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I heard he's playing with the phaser at the end of his session. It was great.
Yeah. Let me see. Frank Zernecki is here. If I'm pronouncing that right, and I'm sorry if I am pronouncing it wrong. Continue on here. Moki, Marvin James is here. And very nice to have you here. Let me see. Ed B has a Helix. Just wondering if the PodGo presets would be usable. Right. Okay. So yeah, we addressed that for sure. And happy to give you some tips. Happy to give you some tips on making presets for them as well. Matt Krill is here. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. AZ is here from Arizona. Bucket Full of Balls is here as well too, and I think Bam Ozzy is here. I think I might have got everybody here as well too. So what I'm going to do here, just for a quick second, I'm going to roll a quick clip here, then I'm going to jump back into the show to talk about how we're going to have a preset from Paul later on after the show. We'll tell you how to get that. We're also going to show you how you can support the show as well too, and we'll be right back in about 32 seconds. Okay, everyone, we will have a preset for you today later on in the program, courtesy of today's guest. You have to be a live chat participant, so jump over there in the live chat, say hi. Don't be shy. We're a family over there. We'll have lots of fun. Also, if you would be so kind as to like and share this video. Plus, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all post notifications. And we're giving you our personal guarantee we will work just as hard to keep you as a subscriber as we did to get you as one. Lastly, if you feel like supporting what we do here, we have super chats available in the live chat, and of course our PayPal address, which is listed in a couple different spots on the screen as well. Your support is greatly appreciated, and now let's get right back to the show. So back over to the chat as well too. Kai Down says, Paul is the man. When I first started with the Helix, his Anderton's video is massively valuable to me. He also sent me a whole set list of his NAMM presets, which helped me get started. That's awesome.
Right. Excellent.
Very cool. And Bucket Full of Balls recently got a PodGo. That's got to be one of the coolest YouTube names, right? Bucket Full of Balls.
Yes, definitely.
If you're going to have some balls, you got to have a bucket full, right? So
absolutely.
Yes. And so anyways, let's go over to the studio for a second. Your studio, you've been doing some amazing things at home there. Really, I mean, the decor is looking good. I'm going to switch over to the full screen so they can really take advantage of it. And I know we don't get to see all your console or anything like that, but you when did you start working on that? And are you getting nice and kind of comfy and cozy in there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we moved house pretty much because I wanted some more space to do videos. So we moved house, and it took a little while to get everything together. You're only seeing one little corner of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's awesome. It's just, I mean, the last place I had was cool. I'd lived there for such a long time, and it served me so well. And I haven't really bought a lot of extra gear, to be honest, to go in here. But I've just got loads of space. I can sort of run around and I can stand up and stuff. It's great. And I think and last time, whenever I used to do videos, people were always like, "Your studio always looks so clean," And it was like, it wasn't really. It was just everything was behind the camera, and now I'm actually able to, I've got more space to keep things tidy all of the time, So nice. Yeah, it's fantastic. But in terms of my setup, it's kind of really basic. I've got some nice outboard gear, but I don't really get the chance to use it very, very much. You know, I mean, it would be wrong of me to do a Line 6 video and run a Helix through a ton of other gear. So I wouldn't do that. So, you know, the nice bits of outboard gear I got to try and make drums sound better and things like that. You know, like, but I'm pretty much thinking about going all in the box soon as well. You know, I might sell some of the outboard stuff. I mean, you know, things just technology now and software sounds so good. And, you know.
I agree with you.
So,
in the thumbnail of today's video, which is a photo I lifted from your Facebook page with permission, of course. Nice photo, by the way. I'd like it. I know you don't like your own photos, and you know I'm the same way as well too. But I think you look great in the shot. But you'll notice on the desk as well too. You've got I'm just going to guess a 3 or 4 or 5 space rack unit. And you've got like some preamps in there, and I don't know exactly everything you have, but yeah, you can see some of the outboard gear in there as well too. But that's the thing with Helix. You just don't need it, right? I mean, you really, really don't. And especially like you say, doing the demos, you want to give people, especially when we do our preset demos, we want to make sure what people are hearing are exactly what they're hearing.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So I mean, most of the stuff, all the rack here on that side, it's a shame because it never gets switched on. It's almost just cosmetic now, you know. And the stuff over here, I sort of use. I think it makes things sound better, but you know, I'm not. You know, I'm definitely one of those people who can switch something on, see some flashing lights, and think, you know, that sounds way better. And you tweak it for a while, and then you realize that actually it's not plugged in on the software, and all of those changes that you've been making have made no difference whatsoever.
I know.
You know?
I know.
It's a terrible when that happens.
It's funny that you mentioned, you know, you haven't really been out buying new gear, but I mean, there's a cause for that, and I think a lot of us are finding it. We get these products, whether it be the PodGo or Helix or whatever the case may be, power cabs. You know, it really squelches the need for other gear. Like I've never in my life had the non-urge to go to a music store. I'm very sorry for not, you know, patronizing some of my music stores, you know, like I used to. I go in there to get some picks and strings, maybe, you know, back when we could go into the stores, but you know, there's no real desire for new gear. Maybe some guitars. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, in some ways, again, because I'm so, you know, I'm obviously working for Yamaha and you know for Yamaha Guitar Group. So I'm so fortunate. You know, like I request something to do a video with, and a Yamaha bass turns up. Our 4 guitars turned up this week, you know, so I'm rarely kind of, and I also know that if I went and bought an expensive guitar by another manufacturer, which I have plenty of, I know that whatever I'm writing, I can't really use in one of the sort of Yamaha videos, you know, like, so I have no urge to go out and buy guitars. I think the last thing I went out and bought was the green Trussart Telecaster, which was, you know, Steelcaster, sorry, and I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful guitar, but it's one of those ones that's kind of always off camera and sort of sitting aside. So you know, maybe one day I'll get back into all that, you know, like. But right now, you know, with having this, and Yamaha makes some great stuff. So there's no sadness from me for not using some of the older stuff that I've got.
Exactly. Well, you know what? That was a question on the itinerary for the day today as well too. We're going to talk about this beautiful Pacifica. So let's do that now, because I mean, you've got it right now. We're going to have you do some tiny bit of playing in the later part of the program as well too, when we talk about the preset. But I mean, first of all, that guitar, I know you and I come from the same school of rock, you know, the Eddie Van Halen, sometimes like the reverse headstocks, you know, and all kinds. I mean, not that Eddie Van Halen did, but that's just I'm on your full screen right now too. That's a badass guitar. Tell us about the concept and how that guitar came to fruition.
So the concept of it was really that, I mean, I've always loved Pacificas, you know, I'm sure we talked about this last time, but my background is I worked in guitar shops for 12 or 14 years, you know, in guitar shops and sort of in Newcastle where I am now, my hometown, and in London as well. And I sold so many Yamaha Pacifica 112s because they were just always great. And it was always a case of no matter what amp or anything I was going to demo, if there was a Pacifica 112 to hand, I always knew I could lift it down, and it was always going to just do exactly what I wanted it to do, you know. So I've always been a big fan of them. And then we brought the Revstar guitar, you know, when we started working with YGG and with Yamaha and with Line 6, obviously they brought the Revstar out. And I love the colors of the Revstar. I love the design of the Revstar. I love the Revstar, but I'm much more of a sort of super strat player. And so the Pacifica was just an ideal one for me to try and get the guys to build as something that looked like one of the cool Revstars that I liked. So we got the it took Pat, and I know you said you had Pat coming on the show, and Pat's a wonderful builder and person, and Raphael as well. So I had those guys desperately trying. I wanted nitrocellulose finish,
nice,
but I also wanted in the finish from the Revstar. So it took them a while to do that, but they mixed the paint for us and put a really thin nitrocellulose finish on there. I loved the copper sort of scratch plate that was on the Revstar as well. Mm-hmm. So they did that as well. So Pat cut all this, and so it's just awesome. I also, the other thing I wanted a really big neck. And I've got I've got some Strat style guitars with really sort of fat necks on there, and I really like that. I really like the idea that I like to have a guitar that I feel like I could drop and it would be fine. I could turn around and hit it off a wall and it would be totally fine. And this definitely feels like that. And the neck's really big. Definitely want the reverse headstock. Obviously there's the Hendrix thing. Obviously your Jeff Beck. Like all. I'm just saying, like, I've seen more and more reverse headstocks, and I've got no guitars. I haven't got a massive collection of guitars. Maybe 12 or 13, which maybe sounds a lot to some people, and maybe sounds like very, very few to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have anything with reverse headstock, so that was the other sort of request that I had for this. Pat had some. Pat did. I came up with how I wanted it to look, but when you're designing a guitar with Pat, it makes far more sense to listen to exactly what he says about a lot of different things. Yeah, he's the expert there. So Pat kind of chose the pickups, some Lola pickups in there, an Imperial and two Blackface. We've got the cool inlays from the BB bass, which are like the sort of the oblong inlays. Mm-hmm. So good. LR Bags bridge, which has a piezo on there as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all.
Yes, it does. I'll be honest, I haven't really used the piezo very much at all. I meant to. It's one of those things when I came back from NAMM, I was like, it'd be great to run that through Helix and put the IRs on and see how close an acoustic sound. And I just haven't got around to doing it. Every time I pick this up, I just start playing, and I just haven't got around to the technique, that sort of side of things.
I followed that guitar very closely, and I since you got it, and I had no idea had piezos in it.
Yeah. So that's it basically. It's I was being a Van Halen fan. The back plate has to come off straight away. So
me too.
Pat's probably cringing right now if he's watching this, because he probably took ages actually cutting the back plate.
I know,
and everything, and it just came straight off before I even got home from NAMM. I think the only other thing sort of with this is we're saying I really wanted Pat to relic the guitar.
Okay.
I really into the relic thing, and he wouldn't do it. He preferred not to do it. So we agreed to have a really thin nitrocellulose finish on it, and it is really thin. And I thought it'll be great. It'll age up really well. It'll get wrecked. It'll be great. And then when I got to Yazla, which is the artist facility, before NAMM, he handed us a guitar, and I was like, I never ever want to put a scratch in that guitar. Like, I hope it doesn't age. But it was too late. So now it's all around the edges. It's getting worn down.
Okay.
But it looks cool, and it's gonna age well. So that's the main thing.
It's a beautiful guitar. I mean, look at some of the Pacificas back in the late 80s, early 90s. Like some of the shred machines they made some killer guitars. And I mean, Pat, look at those couple he made for Jeff Schroeder as well too, from Smashing Pumpkins. Those were pretty cool guitars.
Yeah. Pat's built some wonderful things for the artist. Yeah, he's a very talented. I wish I could build a guitar, but to be able to build guitars like Pat must be something else.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So yeah, absolutely. I am incredibly lucky.
It is. It's killer, and I can tell, and I don't know if the audience can tell right now too. And there's a couple comments I'll mention about just looking at the guitar. How you just tell when a guitar can play good. And I'm just looking at it. I mean, beautiful neck, nice wide neck. It's just killer. And it's funny you mentioned about the reverse headstock too. Like you think that's a common thing. Maybe a lot of us out there have, over the years, many like Jacksons and reverse headstock guitars. I've never owned any until that I can remember. I mean, maybe I had a couple as a teen. I don't remember but until I got the Shurikens. And you can see one behind me back there right now, reverse headstock. And it did take me a little while to get used to it. I mean, it did. But now I love it. I think the cosmetics are just awesome.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get used to the tuning, honestly. Absolutely. And then I think, well, actually, I didn't take this to NAMM because the idea was I'd get this guitar and I would take it to every NAMM show. And then I just I literally don't play any other guitar right now. Since I got this guitar, this is the one I play every single day.
Nice.
or every single time. I wish I played guitar every day, but I don't. But certainly that first NAMM when I got it, because I do a lot of stuff in drop D as well.
Oh, cool.
And I was confused a bunch of times through that whole show.
Changing your high E down to D.
Yeah, like every time. So where's the machine heads?
Yeah.
But it's awesome.
That's cool.
Absolutely love it.
I'll share a couple comments that are coming in about the guitar. So from AZ says, beautiful guitar, love the humbucker single pickup set. Steven says, very cool guitar. Is that a one-off or available for sale? So at this point, it's not available for sale. It's just a custom for you, correct?
Yes, that's right. Yes, it would be fantastic if Yamaha were able to build, not only guitars like the versions of this and stuff as well, but there's a lot of potential there for Yamaha to release some amazing stuff like the likes of what Pat's doing right now.
Agreed, for sure.
But right now, no, I'm afraid it's all mine.
Yep, there you go. Well, you can hog the glory, and people get to enjoy it through your videos. Matt Krill says, it says, very ignorant question, but other than being like EVH and no fault for no one, what's the advantage of leaving the back plate off? There's no advantage. It's just here. Some people will say, because EVH leaves his back cover off. Here's the advantage, and you chime in on this as well too. One, you want to get to your springs and adjust them. Cool. Now I know a lot of manufacturers will make plates where you can actually put the screwdriver through and still adjust your springs, but that's the first thing. But it's just a preference thing. Some people will say it lets the tone bleed. That's sugar water or whatever. That's not true. But it's a cool thing, right? It's a cool factor.
Yeah, absolutely. As a kid, I saw Van Halen do. I think my first introduction to Van Halen would have been Live Without a Net when that first came out, which is still. The solo. I just don't think electric guitar playing gets any better than the solo on Live Without a Net, and then just saying that you turn the guitar, because it'll probably not do it yet, but just I don't think I've got enough gain on to do it, but just being because Van Halen scrapes the springs as well. He gets all this cool noise and stuff. So So is that. There is a more. There's two sort of advantages to me a little bit in that the copper on this is actually quite heavy.
Okay.
So I actually lost a little bit of weight off the guitar by doing that. Not that I needed to, but that was one of the things. And then because I do the drop D stuff, I actually have one of the Tremel nose in there, which I fitted after I got back from NAMM. So I'm able to tighten that up, drop the guitar to D, and it sort of fixes the trem down. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I actually had the back plate, the copper back plate on there as well. So there are some advantages, but basically, I just thought Eddie Van Halen was just the coolest guy ever, and if he did it, it was good enough for me. So I always have. well, here's a good example. I had to switch cameras, so you didn't see me reaching down underneath the desk here. But this is from a guitar. This is from a Kramer Pacer, which you can see glowing back there as well too. Beautiful Kramer, and their plate has the spots where you can put a screwdriver in as well too. And these are the screws that's taped with masking tape. I've been meaning to take this upstairs and put it in the Kramer case so I don't lose it. But even with this, I still take the back off. So it's just a thing that we do, and it just, I don't know, yes, it has a lot to do with Eddie Van Halen, but at the same time, it just feels the right way. Sorry, Pat, for making this beautiful cover, but it is what it is. Yeah, absolutely. It's just that we're just kids. We're still just kids in my heart, and we still idolize Eddie Van Halen. So
that's right.
That's what it's all about.
So this is something that was a bummer a while back. So I was going to get you to kick off the show here of the season, and I was very, very saddened to find out that you had hurt your hand. And as a guitar player, that's something we fear the worst. If you're out there working in construction as your main job, or you're whatever you're doing different things, and you hurt an appendage, you're in trouble. You hurt your finger. How did you do that? I assume now you're starting to get back almost probably 100% to health. Yeah,
so it was just one of those. I go through periods where I don't play a lot of time. I spend a lot of time just doing videos and just trying to make videos as well as I can. And it's such a massive learning curve on there. And I'm always just trying to get good at that. So there's times when I don't play guitar for weeks, and then there's times when I just think I really need to get my playing together. And there's some terrifying guitar players online, and you think, right, I really need to practice. So I just went through a phase of really trying to practice hard, or really practicing hard, through. I shouldn't say this, but through all the Teams calls that we have at work, when we're having conversations, I spent a lot of time just sitting, obviously with the microphone off, just playing as fast as I could. And it just got to the end of the week, and I was my hand. You can tell when you've played a lot. My hand was like it was a little bit sore, but nothing too bad. I've had that before, and it was just a little bit tender, like I'd been playing a lot. And then so I decided to give it a rest from guitar, and I went and did a bunch of gardening and moving some things in the garden. There was a lot of twisting and turning this particular thing that we inherited with the house, this pond pump thing. God, let's not go. Okay. And there was no point where I remember I didn't drop anything on my hand or anything. But the next day it was really sore, like the whole hand was sore. And then over the course of the week, it sort of came down to my ring finger. The pain got worse, but it sort of moved into one finger. And I couldn't bend the finger straight. It was like that, It was, so it was just a really weird. Yeah, it was just really weird. And I mean, being a man, I just decided not to speak to a specialist. It'll go away. I don't want to go to the doctors. And obviously, at the moment, you don't want to go to the doctors or bother, medical staff anyway. So I just tried to avoid as long as I could. Eventually, I spoke to a specialist, and he was like, "Yeah, it's totally fine." But I mean, what it seems to have been, and because I wasn't aware of this, I always thought if I play a lot of guitar, if I just rest those muscles that I use for playing guitar, I can do other things. It'll be fine. But it seems like what I'd actually done was I'd inflamed the muscles from playing a lot that week. Not badly, and that would have been fine. But it was the actual pulling them back in the other direction whilst I was doing the other stuff when they were inflamed in this direction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So they were inflamed and used to be in this direction. I went in the garden and, they got pulled back and stuff. And it was that. So either one of them was fine. It was just the fact that they both sort of happened over the course of the same week. And I wasn't aware of that. So everybody be aware of that.
Yeah.
Like if you've played a lot of guitar, rest your hand. Rest your hand, don't think that you can use a different set of muscles to do something else, because it's as I found in my peril, it doesn't particularly work there. But the good news is it's getting a lot better. So I still can't. That would have been agony.
Yeah.
Like 2-3 weeks ago, so I got a bunch of exercise and stuff. So but it was as well as everything else sort of going on in the world, and being trapped in the house and stuff, like to suddenly then not be able to play guitar was not great. But I'm saying that I decided not to play guitar because I wanted to rest my hand.
Yeah.
The specialist said, no, you should be playing guitar. You need to play guitar, and you need to use those muscles.
Oh, that's good.
Which was great news. Yeah, I was over the moon.
That is good for sure. I felt so bad for you, because it was something that's one of the biggest passions in your life is to play guitar. And I remember we were trying to. The reason why we have you now at this point, I think we're episode 4 or 5 in the Helix Hour, because I wanted you to play, which you're going to be doing today as well too. And I know the fans will love that. But you were in too much pain. There's no way you could do it. So we were checking in with you every couple of weeks. How you doing? It's not like we were trying to rush you by any means, but we wanted you to be able to play and not hurt yourself as well too. So I'm glad to hear you're feeling better there. And just like myself, my dad taught me when I was a kid, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, right? And I'm trying to instill that on Junior as well too. Like, if you got to dig in the dirt with your bare hands, dig in the dirt with your bare hands. If I'm a salesperson, I go see when I sell websites to customers, I go see a mechanic, and he just comes, the owner of the shop, and he just comes out from changing oil in somebody's car. I'll shake his hand. I'll get my hand full of grease. I don't care. I'll do that. But nowadays here as well too, outside working simple chores, I will wear good work gloves, not because I'm afraid of chipping a nail. I don't want to hurt myself. It's kind of common sense, preventative maintenance, so we don't have injuries like that could hamper your guitar performance. Yeah, absolutely. I've always been lucky with my hands. I've never really had I've never had an issue with my hands ever before, and I totally thought that, the hand feels a little bit tender, I'll rest it over the weekend, but as long as I'm not using the muscles in this direction, everything else will be fine. It's not. You need to be careful of your hands, in all ways, so. And obviously, I think probably just getting older has probably made us a bit more susceptible to that. Yeah, that happens. That happens to us for sure. The bones don't bounce like they used to, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Unfortunately.
Well, one of the cool things back at NAMM, which really. Actually, before we go to NAMM, there's a comment from Sheldon as well too. I almost forgot. Sheldon Fisher says, and this is on the guitar. He says, "How do you compare the Yamaha neck there to a Fender Strat?"
So I mean, obviously, a Fender Strat. That's a big lot of different neck shapes there.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a bit extra backstory to this guitar as well, in that I've always been a big. I mean, I've always been a big fan of Tyler guitars, James Tyler guitars. So way back when we started doing the JTV 69, I was super excited, and then the JTV 69 came out, and it's got this big fat neck on it, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
I know it puts a lot of people off. I really like the neck on that. So when we did this, it wasn't as simple as just getting Pat to, because that would have been too easy just to get Pat to make a neck that was chunky. So we had a guy over here called James Crow, who works for Yamaha in the UK. He came up to see me in the last place, and he measured the necks on a bunch of guitars that I have. And part of it was measured on an old sort of custom shop Strat that I have. The Kramer he measured all the neck on the Kramer, because I do really like that neck, that 1984 neck. There's the JTV 69, and like another old Strat type guitar that I've got. So he measured all them. He's the sort of luthier over here. He sent the stuff to Pat, and Pat, did what Pat does and put this neck together with things that he knows from James Tyler as well. So it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different necks. So it's a lot bigger than an American standard Strat,
Okay.
a lot bigger, but it's not as big as the old sort of Jeff Beck. It's very like a JTV, the Variax, I would say JTV 69.
Okay.
Very like that kind of thing.
That's a very good description for sure. So good question from Sheldon as well too. So jumping back to NAMM, and I mean, this was just in January. We're in June right now, early first week in June, and it seems like NAMM was like a year ago. I mean, with everything that's been going on, I mean, it was just months ago, but it's been crazy. But the nice thing is, and I'm so glad to have made it this year. The world got the first look at PodGo thanks to you. It was in the booth. It was very, very secret. I don't even think Frank, and if he's still in the chat, he could comment. Sometimes these things get leaked, and like a dealer will post something, before the embargo is lifted, and people know about it. I don't think if there was a leak, it might have been the day of NAMM, so that wasn't too bad. But PodGo was debuted, and you did like one of the most incredible performances, demos on the unit. And what were your like? I know you probably get these things. I know for a fact, you get to sample these units long before they're released for the public to do your demos and things like that. But what was your reaction the first time getting it in your hands? Probably thinking, okay, this is an entry level product price wise, and then oh my god, it does what it does. What were your thoughts on when you first got it?
Well, I mean, my first thoughts are obviously a whole bunch of like, I need to do an overview video for the day that I get to NAMM. I need to have a whole bunch of video stuff together. So that's a lot of my first thoughts are how am I going to approach all of that. I mean, in terms of when I took it out of the box, it was like, it's a really cool size. I have to be honest from an almost selfish point of view, I love the LCD screen on there. Because I knew that it's not really backlit like a lot of other products that I see, and I knew the colors would come out really well on video. So sometimes when you do video stuff, and I have this even with the Helix on a video camera. I mean, Helix screen looks fantastic, but on a video camera, you get a little bit of a blue. Mm-hmm. I can even see it now on the Helix, the rack that you're sitting behind there. There's a little bit of backlight on there. And as soon as I switched this on, it was like, oh, it hasn't got that sort of backlight. This is going to come out better on camera, and I'm not going to have to mask it off and do some different sort of things and stuff. So the screen on here is fantastic. And it's just immediately, it was like, actually, this is everything that most people are going to need in one box. It's exactly what we want, what the guys wanted it to be. And you put it in a gig bag, it's got the wah pedal on there, and it's like, yeah, actually I can do this, because for a little while I've been taking an HX Stomp to band practice. It's just because it's so easy and so portable. And it was like, actually now I can this has got the expression pedal on there. And for most things, a lot of the stuff that I do is actually in there. Yeah, already, all the sounds are in there, but in terms of the actual features, I'm not in a band context. I mean, at NAMM, I have to go through a ton of different things. I have to do a lot of tap dancing. I have to do a lot of switching and a lot of different, or as many different styles as I can. In a band context, it can be a little bit like that, or it can be I just plug in and dial up the sound and do everything else from the guitar. And that's one of the things I've always loved so much about the new sort of HX models is they respond to the guitar, they respond to how hard you play, they respond to the volume control, and it means that I can go to a rehearsal room and plug into a PA or a power cab or another amp, and all that response is there, and I can control everything. Clean sounds by turning down, and the volume control works again with all the new modeling stuff.
One of the things I found fascinating about it, so my first experience was seeing it on the shelf in the Line 6 booth. I think there might have been a couple of them or whatever, but I mean, you don't get a chance to physically step on it. So I saw it looked great, and the team took us through some demos, and we put it up there, and we also featured your performance on the YouTube channel as well too. And unfortunately, it was just filmed in mono, so we didn't get a chance to really, because you had some crazy panning things going on, which was great. But it's just filmed with mono with my camcorder.
They're sort of love-hate thing. Those I have some people who really like them. And I think most people, it sort of does make them feel a little bit dizzy, and they don't like it.
Yeah,
I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, you even warned us. You even warned the audience as well too. Okay, if you have any kind of seasickness or that kind of thing. But it was very, very cool. But so here's what really impressed me was, okay, so we don't get you don't know how good something is until you can step on it. Now, I don't mean to apply that to a guitar. You don't want to take a brand new guitar and step on it and make it feel good. But the PodGo, or a Helix, or any floor modeling unit, let's take an old, plastic Zoom unit, right? You step on one of those things and, okay, am I going to break it with my cowboy boots or whatever you're wearing? But with PodGo, I thought, my initial impressions were, I don't know how that expression pedal is going to respond. When I got one, I'm like, holy crap, this thing is really robust. So that's something I think is cool. Yeah,
absolutely. No, it's all it's all strong. It's very like the Helix, really, isn't it? It feels reliable, and it feels like with the fat neck on my guitar, I could drop the guitar on it and it'd be fine. Both would survive.
Exactly, I know. It's very, very cool, very robust, and I agree with you 100% on the LCD display. Now, I require glasses. I haven't had glasses in many, many years. I need to go get my prescription checked and get new glasses again. But when I have it on the floor, I can see it very, very, very well, and the resolution, so to speak, as you mentioned as well too. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds probably crazy, like the pair of us like getting all excited about the screen on this, but it is. It's crystal clear, it's color, and it comes out well on video. And I'm sure quite a few people who are watching this are keen sort of YouTubers and making videos as well. It does. It's there. So that was my first sort of initial sort of selfish thing. I was like, that screen's gonna come out really well. And the next thing was it just sounds great. It was the first time I plugged it in. It was. I think we said last time, when I get a product, I think I got this at the end of October last year, but Eric and the team are still working on the updates all the time until they get the version 1 for NAMM, so I usually have a sort of love-hate relationship with that, as everybody does before the release date, we're all kind of trying to get things to happen. And I think I'm sure Eric will be totally cool with saying this, but I was really confused when I first got it because I couldn't find the amp models at all. I was going through all the sounds, and I could see everything else, and everything seemed really logical. And I'm looking at all the different effects, and it's like, yeah, this works, but where's the amps? There's no amp models or cab models in this. And it was almost one of those, like, it's such a silly question that I didn't want to bother because I just thought I'm going to get a message back from Eric going, there's a big, press the amp button or something, and it actually turns out that mine didn't have amp models in it at that point, so I didn't have the option of the amp stuff, that on that first firmware update. So yeah, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship to start with, but as soon as I got the amp models in there, and it started, and it actually came to life. But yeah, but there was a week where it was just, why am I being silly? Why is there no amps and why is there no cabs? But it was just an early firmware update that didn't have them in. So and when I get it, there's never a manual either.
Right.
So I'm just in there just trying to get my head around, and you think you've got it figured out, and there's an update and everything changes. It's not like an update where you get some extra there's like one new page or anything. It's like everything can change, with an update, so. But yeah, by the time it was released at NAMM, I think I shot some video stuff at the start of December with the band, and that's they had it nailed by then.
It's amazing how quickly they'll change things as well too, like firmware updates and stuff like that, which is always a good thing. I remember very similar doing a demo way back. It was one of the first live demos, not demos, but one of the first live demos on the PowerCab 212, and I had it sitting right behind me, and I was playing really, really loud with it too. And And it was so funny because I mean, testing some of the, the things for them, I thought I had the most recent firmware. I mean, I'm very adamant about that, making sure the firmware is up to date. And I must have been two sub-versions behind on the firmware. And the guys were like, they were seeing my display when I was using PowerCab Edit on the screen. They're like, dude, you got, like, the icons were different. So I was behind in the firmware and they could tell. I was like, oh, I feel so embarrassed. But it's still very, very cool. A question over in the chat. Brad Miller says, I have a question. I'm having issues with HX Stomp USB not connecting to other recording interfaces through OBS. So here's what I would suggest in a case like that. I've even used Helix units like that as well too as an interface into OBS. Run your units, whether it be PodGo, HX Stomp, Helix. And I know he has an HX Stomp. Run it into an interface, and then because you're going to get major lag anyways, there will be latency. It's just the way it works with programs like OBS and I guess like live stream or whatever. I know it's not. I forget what it's called, Livewire or something like that. Whatever it's called. But use a mixer. Run your interface into a mixer and then to there, and you won't have that problem with lag. So let's we're going to jump over to some performance sections. I know people are probably thinking, okay, Eric, enough talking, and I know they're saying that, and I agree with you, enough talking. We're going to have a preset later on today from you, and you're going to also share with us a manufacturer of a really, really cool impulse response that will come in this preset, and we're going to link later on in the description the manufacturer. Sandra's going to share the link to them now. But tell us a little bit of the preset you're going to give us, the manufacturer of the impulse response. Maybe take us through some licks. Yeah, sure.
I mean, this is. I mean, I dial in the same sort of sounds a lot of the time that I would in real life. I love that sort of old plexi sound. So that's my sort of my go-to sound. And there's some, the speaker models in there, or the cabinet models, also they sound great. Then there's companies like Hammer who do some great stuff as well. I use a bunch of their IRs. But I think like maybe a year and a half ago, a company called Valhalla IR. I can't remember if I got in touch with them or they got in touch with me, and they sent a bunch of really cool stuff. I always kind of like that big sort of 412 type of like the sound that I grew up on and the gear that I bought initially. And so I messaged the Andreas just before we went live, and he was totally cool to send out the IR as well. So it's part of the new. I'll probably be getting this wrong, but it's a 1969 4x12. It's the V2 1969. And normally when I find IRs, they're nearly always like SM57s on them, or the SM7.
Okay.
This one's an AKG D202, which I wasn't that familiar with. I don't know if you're AKG D2 on them? No. And it just sounded great. So this is kind of my go-to preset at the moment. And this IR will be available from wherever you decide to make it available. And incidentally, IRs, as we know, they're not expensive to buy. This whole pack of different mics and things, and I think it's like €13 on their website. So I'm sure you can check the link down below for this Brit J45. So I guess that's what I should also say as well. I'm in the Brit J45 preset. If I actually press the mode foot switch, a lot of the time that I'm playing with these type of things is I like to have it as individual stomp pedals that I can switch in and out. So on this, I also have the Kinky boost and I have the Einar drive. So I can switch those in. It's just a little bit of plate reverb and a little bit of Adriatic delay on this. So this is it.
We're not getting it through the mix.
You're not getting that in the mix? Oh, interesting. Oh, why is... hang on 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, we had it during a test for sure. Probably just a simple glitch.
Yeah, so I've got it there. So Skype was being difficult with me today.
Mm-hmm.
So whilst I've been talking, so this is maybe going to change the sound of everything for you. And I actually never closed Skype down, but this is going to switch over to the lapel mic. I think you've probably been listening to this you must have been listening to this on the
Mac?
The Mac mic, yeah.
I bet you.
So let me switch this over.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
And am I clear? Has everything become clear?
Yeah, that's. I can tell we got your lapel now.
Right. Okay. I don't know what's going on with Skype today.
It's okay, man. We got you. Now we're talking, buddy.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm some.
Don't worry.
Yeah. So anyway, so this is the basic sort of amp sound. And without the delay. And then with some of those boosts. Fine, because the cool thing about this as well is like you can actually do the whole stacking different overdrives on top of each other. So if I want to on this, I could have four different overdrives at the same time.
Nice.
I'd have to maybe lose some other different effects, but you wouldn't want 4 overdrives at the same time, I don't think. But I've got these 2 stacked together.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, so that's my sort of Brit J45 preset with the Valhalla IR V2 1969 with the AKG D202 microphone on it. Yeah.
Isn't that something so we learn something new every day, obviously, because that's a microphone I'm not familiar with. I feel bad I don't, but I'm not an engineer, so I mean I only know a few of the common mics and that's it, but that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, I mean that's the preset that we shall give away. Obviously, I have a bunch of different presets that I put on Custom Tone as well, so they're all available to download for free. I don't because obviously I'm a Yamaha employee. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. I don't think anybody else does it, but I was going to say I don't put them on Marketplace. Mm-hmm. It seems to makes sense for me to put them on Custom Tone.
Well, yeah, because you get a paycheck from them as it is. So
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, I can just go through a couple of different presets that I've been sort of messing about with for video at the moment, you know. So this is the new Rev Gen amp. Obviously with the script phase pedal. Yeah, I mean, I had some in terms of the NAMM thing. I mean, if you're kind of cool, me just going through some different.
Oh yeah, let me just give you, as you're switching presets, I just gotta say, man, this is a treat beyond treats. Even in mono, I mean, it's just a pleasure to watch you and listen to you play.
Okay, cool. You should be hearing me in stereo, though, are you?
No, I don't get you in stereo through Skype, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. So yeah, sorry.
But it still sounds phenomenal. Trust me. So everything's summed mono, but it sounds great. Cool.
Good. So what else have I got here? So I really like this sound from NAMM. The sort of the auto wah type thing. Again, love-hate sort of thing. I think at the time there was a bunch of video stuff came out, and I think for a little while, every time somebody saw us do something, I had this filter on, and there was a few people like, "Why is that guy always got that filter on?" It's like,
I saw the comments. I saw those.
You just keep singing the same song.
Because you do it well, that's why.
So this is the filter, the auto filter. I really like that. I mean, the sort of nasty.
I like that. I mean, you know what? Screw the haters if they're going to come and stuff like that. I mean, you do it well. If I tried that same filter, I would probably sound like crap. It's something that works for you. That's your signature, man.
Yeah. So, just been working on a video at the moment with some with three different delays on here. And this is something that will sound way better in stereo.
Sure.
Sorry if you keep seeing me reach over. I could do this on the unit, but I can actually see the set list really clearly, and I've got the PodGo edit software up here. So
No problem.
I'm sure you're aware what I was up to there, but yeah, this is so I can easily just see the whole set list right there in front of us. So yeah, and there's some nice little different things in there. We had things like the double track, or the double take thing in here. Maybe better in stereo, but it's a way of splitting the sound, so it actually sounds like there's two guitar players playing at the same time. One of the nice sort of fuzz on here as well. So I'm just going through I'm just seeing a bunch of different sort of things in front of me. Yeah, so
like it.
Nice fuzz on there. But yeah, but most of the time I am kind of just dialing in that sort of that Brit, that Brit J45 type sound and adding sort of different pedals to that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
While you're on the fuzz topic, just for a sec before I want to share something with you, and I'm not sure if you've ever tried this. Like, I'm not a fuzz fan per se, and I don't have any disrespect for anyone that uses it and it's part of their signature sound. I just never been able to pull it off. But and especially octave fuzz. I remember having one of the MXR not too long ago, Dunlop Octavios, whatever. But Chris Robertson from Blackstone Cherry, well known in the community as well, and he's got some really cool stuff up on Marketplace as well too, with some of his signature sounds for his records, and he's created some impulse responses too. But this, he told me this technique for using the octave fuzz and that's a signature sound for him. He plays in a neck pickup and he turns the tone completely flat. Have you ever tried that?
No, I do like the octave fuzz. I really like the octave fuzz. I'm as sure as everybody is or should be, like Mike Landau is like the king of guitar tone and playing for me. And those early sort of Burning Water albums, he used a lot of octave fuzz as well. He was doing that when he was on his whole sort of Hendrix kick. So that was definitely a pedal that I was reading. And it always seems like you have to play slightly differently. It's a slightly different sort of approach to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, it tends to be something like a bit.
Cool.
Because when you're using them, and the Line 6 model is so good that you can hear those overtones that are really moving around.
Mm-hmm.
Bend that. I'm not sure how good the sound is that you're getting through Skype.
Sounds good.
You should be able to hear a note. As the notes go up, you hear the overtones that go up.
Yep.
You get that now with the modeling as well, which is just which was such a cool thing. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Yeah. See, it works for some people, and I mean, it's like I can't get it, but it's not my thing. But you do it so well, and it sounds fantastic.
Yeah, you just can't dial it in and then go for and try. I mean, and I think this is maybe good advice if people aren't already doing this. Is like for me, and I think one of the reasons why I've got away with being a demonstrator for such a long time is I can't when I play and when I try to. And I'll hear the first note, and I'll hear the tone that I'm sort of dealing with, and then I try to respond to that tone and play something. I very, very, very rarely, and if I do, it usually can go wrong. I'm not the person who, flicks on a preset and then just tries to play the way that they always do, and I would never I always respond to the preset or respond to the sound and try to play something sympathetic to that sound, as opposed to just playing and trying to play something with a sound that's not designed, because then everything just goes completely wrong, and I think in that's kind of my philosophy on such a bunch of things. I mean, I actually don't listen to a lot of guitar players. I really tend to listen to a lot of songs and some of the great songwriters and the great musicians, and you kind of know that whatever, even they might not be the greatest guitar player in the world, but if they were handed a guitar with the worst sound in the world, they would respond to that and they'd play something sympathetic to that sound, and you would think, that's really cool. Even if it's the thinnest, weirdest little sound, they would play something that fits that perfectly, and it would sit in their song perfectly, and it would become a big part of that song, And I mean, maybe I'm like, just one of my favorite bands of the last 20 years have been not the Eagles. I have no problem with the Eagles, but every time I say this, people think I say the Eagles. So the Eels. Okay. So the Eels with they did like Novocaine for the Soul and all that stuff, and like he's not the greatest guitar player in the world, but he gets some great sounds, and when he gets a weird little sound, he fits it into the sound, the song so well, So I don't know why how I ended up going off on that tangent there, but I think it's kind of important. It's kind of important, that you don't just try. You listen to the sound that comes out of the speakers, and you try and create something and respond to that. And usually if I don't do that, it kind of all just goes horrendously wrong. I dial in a sound expecting something, and it sounds slightly different through the PA and whatever, or through the amp and stuff, and then it all goes wrong. I'm much better off responding to the sound like as quickly as instantly as I can.
I agree with that 100%. And actually, I was educated on that same topic as well too, because one time I was trying to profess. I say this a lot on the show. Try to get out of your comfort zone and play more amps that are in Helix. I mean, probably I would like to go on the record and say probably about 60 to 70% of the world's Helix users probably have their comfort zone and don't get out of it, and they only use a few amps. I know I do myself. And so I was suggesting, put a loop block in there and play a riff and then try different amps and stuff like that. And one time when Billy Sheehan was on the show, he kind of contradicted me in a good way. He said, that's not necessarily the best idea. He says, you're not going to plug into like a Fender Twin and play the same riffs you're going to play through, now let's say Rev Purple or something like that. So each time you play through a different amp, you are going to play differently, and that's how you respond. You don't just do the same thing with every different amplifier, and you'll hit a preset. All of a sudden, there's inspiration that will take you off in a jazz world or an octave world or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's a different sort of thing, and like I said, I mean, I'm sure you're not doing it, but if you put that octave fuzz on and you just try to play one of your songs that you play with distortion, it's going to backfire and it's not going to work, And I think that ties in probably quite nicely with the whole, what we've been talking about like recently with presets and things. I mean, I'm every time I pick something up, I'm dialing in a new sound. I mean, that's the Brit J45, and because PodGo, like all the Line 6 stuff, it's so easy to navigate. I was able to just dial up switch off that, switch the overdrive over to the fuzz there. It's like it's kind of instant, But there's a lot of people talking about like presets and presets being, plugging in and disliking presets, and it's like you kind of just have to know what, And I'll be honest, that surprisingly for me, I mean, my presets are in there. I haven't actually had any flack, and my presets are quite weird in there. But the way that it landed is, so if you have a PodGo, my presets are in from, I think, in the factory sounds from 18A upwards. Mm-hmm. Where they landed, I had a really clean sound, and then I put that in Snapshot 2, because obviously PodGo has snapshots, which is 4 different variations of a preset. Mm-hmm. So my second variation of that preset was the really clean version, and this was for my NAMM demo. So I had the really clean version on Snapshot 2. Snapshot 1 was the one that went stereo and had all the crazy effects on it. Obviously, when it was loaded into the factory sounds, it defaults to Snapshot 1 as you get to that sound. So anybody dialing in my preset's they're going to be swamped with weird reverbs and crazy effects and stuff, So it's just that thing of you have to respond and how those. I'm actually surprised I haven't had more complaints about my presets. I haven't seen it. Maybe you have, but I haven't really seen it. But if you have PodGo, they're actually in there, And at the moment, there's a little video series of exactly why those presets are. What I had in mind when I played those presets, and those presets wouldn't work for anything else other than the style that I actually sort of dialed in. And hopefully, if somebody else comes across them, like say they might be inspired and it might take them off on somewhere else, and but definitely respond to what you're hearing and don't try and force your playing on a sound. I would say, just try and play sort of dynamically with what's coming out of the amp, whatever that sound, whether it's a good sound or a bad sound. Just try and get the best from it.
I agree 100%. I put one up on Custom Tone a while back because, as you know, I'm on Marketplace myself, but I put one out on Custom Tone. I've got a bunch on there as well, probably about a dozen, maybe, or up close to a dozen, no more than that. And I put one up with JCM 800. I call it JCM 800 Helix Hour or something like that. And I was like, and I made it rather quickly. And I've been playing that one a lot, and it's a PodGo preset. I'm like, I really like this freaking preset. I got like a Timmy whatever in front of it, and my typical 412, 25 watt speakers, whatever, and my typical kinky boost in the effects loop. And I really, really, really like it. But I know, as you say, it's so easy. And I know for some people it may not be as easy for others if they've never used a modeler device. But as long as you've got a general consensus of where pedals might go in the chain and how to work an amplifier, you can create, whether you're on Helix, Stomp, PodGo, whatever, you can create presets in no time at all and be jamming instantly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so quick, and now it's like it's actually like kind of fun to do. I mean, we mentioned the Zoom earlier. I think my first multi-effect, which I still have, which I'm going to do a video on, which is the Zoom 9030. Which is a cool unit, I mean, it doesn't do the rich guitar tone thing very well, but it did when I first got it in 1992 or something. I mean, it's old. And actually, I just came across all the settings that I had for different types of sounds, like way back then, the settings that I dialed in. And I mean, the unit still works. I just need to, but I needed. There was no software obviously at that point, and even if there was, I didn't have a computer then, so it was, it wasn't. It was never going to work, but. Where I'm getting to this, sorry, is the Zoom. It wasn't fun to edit. It wasn't fun to dial the sounds into it. You spent ages trying, and then I had to write down all the settings, which is the notepad I came across just literally this week. The new stuff. I mean, you've got a screen there. You've got the icons that look like, put a load of PodGo edit, and you've got the icons that look like the amps and look like the pedals, and that. It's a real education tool as well, in terms. I mean, I spent such a long time in guitar shops maybe it's not even trying pedals myself, but somebody would come in and want to try. I mean, the store that I worked in was great because it had a whole, not only did we have all the Boss pedals, but we had a guy there who was really good at that. He used to import a lot of his Vex things and the really more exotic stuff. So when customers used to come in to try them, I got to try them and all, and hear all these different bits of gear. And not everybody gets the chance to do that. But if you've got something like PodGo or Helix, like any of these things, you really do get to learn about how things sound in the signal path, and and there's so many resources now as well. Like yourself and Jason putting out, and Steve, like all kinds of people, Steve putting out great videos on all these different things, and sort of educating people to the education that I had from working in the shop for 12 years. It
helped tremendously.
Yeah, but now you can go on YouTube and you can get one of these, and you can dial in all those amps and get a feel for what it actually, for what they sound like and how they respond, and learn very quickly, because these things will allow you to, like in the real world, you could put your pedals in the wrong place,
Yep.
And that in itself can bring out great things, and
yes, it can.
Unusual things. It can also bring out horrible things and terrible things, and that. But these will allow you to do that, But
yeah, I mean, it's like the learning the rules and then break them and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple questions coming in. David Hill was earlier asking for quick ideas on setting up snapshots for PodGo. So send me an email, info@thehelixhour.com, and I'll be more than happy to send you a couple of screenshots. It's so incredibly easy. No different than pretty much anything else as far as Line 6 devices, but I'm happy to walk you through. I know Paul's probably got some great videos on that as well, too. And there's a several question, kind of a several part question. Steve, I'm not sure if I'm getting his last name right, but Steve wants to know, is the PodGo worth it? Has anyone tried to front of house, and how did that sound direct? And how are the distortions in the PodGo? He used to have a full-size Helix years ago, but ended up selling it. So number one, I think we can address some of these questions. Number one, at NAMM, you were running direct to front of house, were you not?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It sounded brilliant.
Yeah, so that whole demo was, it was PodGo straight into, we had power cab on the stage as well, but it was just using it as a monitor. It was in a sort of, flat response mode. And yeah, I mean, it sounded great. I did a bunch of video stuff things before I went to NAMM, but a lot of that was more focused on the video stuff as opposed to me really dialing in a sound. I do a lot of reamp stuff, so I'll do a lot of video stuff and different things. I always capture the reamp audio. I don't know if that's worth talking about in a sort of second, but
sure.
So when I shot the stuff in December, I didn't really get the chance to hear it loud in anger, but then you get to NAMM and you suddenly hear things with your backing tracks up like full blast, and and it was loud on that stage. That was a good PA, and it sounded and it was exciting. It's so to me, I think it sounded great. The response that I had was, I think possibly, I'm lucky in that people are usually very receptive to what I do, but I think the response from this NAMM was better than ever. And I think it was because the tones were all sounding good. I hope.
It's one of those things where you don't expect it to sound as like, you see the price sticker on this thing and you're like, okay, it can't be as good as what it is. And that goes back to the follow-up question he was asking, are the distortions good? Well, if you like a distortion in Helix or you like a distortion in HXFX or HX Stomp, you're going to like it because it's the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly the same amp models. It's exactly the same overdrives. All the modulation effects. It's everything that you would get in the Helix, but in a much more simplified signal path. You can't have two amps side by side. So you can't have a Vox type amp on one speaker and out of one side and a Fender out of the other with different pedals in front and behind them. So it's not going to allow you to do that. But a lot of people don't need to do that. A lot of people just want a couple of overdrives, a delay, a reverb, and it's gonna do that. So yeah, there's 9 blocks. I'm sure I know you have been through this already, but yeah, you've got 9 blocks there. 5 blocks are the sort of go-to effects that you're probably going to need anyway. Your EQs and your cab and either your impulse response or your cab, sorry. And you've got your volume. Your wah is always gonna be there. Different types of wah, different types of volume, different types of amp and cab, but they're always something like that. But then you have 4 of the sort of flexible blocks, which can be anything you want them to be. So like we had before, if you want 4 delays, you can do that. If you want two overdrives and 2 delays, or whichever way you want that to be. So for most situations, and I'm seeing a lot of people who have got Helix who are buying these just as a backup, or they're buying this as a like just a more portable solution for some gigs and things and that. So yeah, and you mentioned Chris from before. He's out playing massive stages with Helix and sounding fantastic. So, it's a slightly different experience sometimes, but I do still. I still love you stand in front of a valve amp, and I still love analog things. I still love a loud amp, but I'm never going to get away from that. There's room. You don't have to. A lot of people are, they either like real analog traditional amps or they like Helix. You don't have to put your flag in one camp.
No.
Absolutely you can have, everybody at Line 6 loves vintage gear. They love modern gear. They love all kinds of things. And, how fantastic is it that now you can get something like this and on a budget, be able to record via USB, have access to all those amps that I've got a bunch of nice amps over there, but there's some things I don't have, I'm pretty well covered, but I don't have a Vox style amp, but this has got that in, it's got all those different things. And then the other side of that is I've got those amps because they look nice and because I don't really want to sell them. I never ever use them because, truth be told, I'm pretty sure that me putting a microphone in front of one of them and, I wouldn't be able to mic it up to make it sound as good as something like this with the IRs or the cabs in as well, So yeah, we live in a very fortunate time as far as all this gear is concerned for being able to record things.
I agree, and I'm the same kind of school as well too. Where I'm not a sound engineer. I know you have a lot more experience than I do, but even still, I can't put a mic in front of a cabinet and get a good tone. And by the time I get it, I've lost the inspiration. So if it's kind of counterproductive. But let's think of some options for people. I mean, think of how easy it is to plug and play and go. Let's say maybe a guitar player wants to do something. If we can't work outside the home sometimes. Right now with the pandemic, someone wants to teach guitar lessons. PodGo is a very affordable unit to plug in, put into an interface like Skype or Zoom or whatever it is, so you have great sound to your students. Or if you're an aspiring YouTuber and you want to go live and play, but jam to an audience and have the best quality sound that you can without having to put mics on cabinets and be live or loud like late in the evening. It's an affordable way and a great way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, it works in all those situations. If you want to practice at home, you've got a looper there. Like you mentioned loops before, and I used to do so much loop stuff, and for some reason over the last year I haven't done much, but I did a lot yesterday for a video, and it's just like how much fun is instantly being able to play a chord progression and record it and then play over the top of it. Like having that. Back when I was learning to play, I would sit and I'd come up with a chord progression and I'd record it into a ghetto blaster.
Yeah.
A thing anymore. Record it into that, and then I'd play that back on the tape, and I'd have to play the same thing for 4 minutes or longer. And it was never going to be long enough. You'd play it back and jam over the top of it, and now and it never sounded great, and now it's all in these boxes. So yeah, you can sit and play along with your records at home. The effects, there's a stereo effects one there. The effects loop you can use as an auxiliary in, which is great for the things that you're talking about. Like being able to practice at home and stuff.
Yeah.
So you plug your MP3 player or CD player or your ghetto blaster into that, and
it's perfect.
if anybody even knows what a ghetto blaster is.
I do. I'm of age. And did you ever have? I had one of these. This is my first experience of multi-tracking. I had a dual cassette deck, and not all of them did this. But I don't know which one I had. I don't even know the brand. Doesn't matter. But I could record on the record deck. So deck 1 was a playback. Deck 2 is playback and record. So I'd record on deck 2. Blah 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 blah. I would take that cassette out, put it in playback 1, put a blank tape in number 2. Did you have something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it started off on all that.
You can't mix it later. You can't mix it, but make sure you get your parts right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and then I eventually graduated to a 4-track recorder. And you're right. You were bouncing things down, and you sort of had to make. I was going to say I'd like to go all sort of George Martin there, and talk about having to make the right decisions with EQ and stuff as you bounce things down. But I wasn't making the right decisions.
Yeah.
It's like, you record 3 tracks and then bounce them onto the 4th track and stuff. And it was interesting actually. I know we sort of talked about this earlier, but I don't know if anybody's seen the first of the videos that we did. We did a video in Japan last year, where I was so fortunate enough to actually visit the guys in Yamaha and visit they've got this great archive, a museum in Hamamatsu, which is just mind blowing. Like the amount, and to see the amount of things that Yamaha have been things that from Yamaha that have been part of my life, and they had my old 4-track there, or one very very similar.
Cool.
I had that in like 1988. Maybe a little bit later, maybe 1991, something like that. And I spent so long with a little Zoom 9030 and at least this SR16 drum machine. And the Yamaha sort of 4-track, and like being in that museum there and just seeing all this gear that I sold in shops and stuff, and seeing the sort of the amazing history that Yamaha have of just inspiring musicians, and being there way more until I got there, way more in my life than I'd even realized. Like there was something that I think my brother had, like a little Yamaha keyboard that I'd totally forgotten about, and it was there as well. Like all these cool things,
like a Portasound or something, or it was Portasound probably wasn't even around back then, but like a DX synth or something.
Well, I had a DX synth, not one of the sort of really early sort of super cool expensive ones.
Yeah,
but there's a Yamaha synth there. The little thing that I think my brother had was just a tiny little sort of kids Yamaha thing. It was like pretty clever, and I remember playing on that, and like just all these different things, So it was so if anybody, just check out those videos, because they were really fun to make. And there's a second video coming out where we visit the archive of guitars, which is basically all the prototype guitars. So there's like prototype Pacificas and some of the crazy designs from the 60s and 70s that they're really futuristic, and I was lucky enough I mean, my thing, like I said before, it's all about sort of writing something and creating something that I think as part of it is it's almost like a diary. I'm trying to I think I had a bit of for some reason, I think I had a bit of a shake up like years ago where I suddenly thought I haven't actually recorded something. Like if heaven forbid I couldn't play guitar, I would never, back in the 90s it was like I would never have any record of me having played guitar, So when I started to get really into recording, just so that when I'm old and sitting or older and sitting on the porch, I can watch a video and think, yeah, I used to be able to play guitar. I did spend all that time playing guitar and stuff, and so that's like being able to record something like that with this and do the video stuff and everything. I'm kind of trying to archive my life, I think, a little bit.
That's cool, though. It is. It's cool.
So what we did was we record. I wrote like 6 little bits of music and we played them on a bunch of weird guitars. And sorry, where I was getting with that was we recorded we found the very first Yamaha. It was one of 2 guitars that were made in 1965, and then later on they brought it out the following year. So it was literally the first. It was like when Yamaha we should investigate making some electric guitars. This was the electric guitar that they built as a trial, if just internally as this prototype. And I got to play a song on it, and that's in the next video. So that'll be. Oh man, it was cool, so to tie all that together, that's me archiving my life and sort of like writing bits of music and trying to be, creative and stuff, So so check that out.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it's something I wanted to put on the itinerary because I remembered all this. I saw it going down. I saw you sharing the photos and stuff like that, and I'm like, wow, like just checking out some of these guitars. It kind of reminded me of like, Eastwood Airlines and kind of these George Jetson style, futuristic guitars way back in, such a long time ago, but very, very cool. So I'm glad you did share that story today. And there's a comment from our friend Landshark Mark. He says he had 3 cassette decks and a Radio Shack mixer in the early 80s. I used to record tracks and bounce them back and forth. It was freaking mess, but I thought it was cool at the time. Exactly, right? We all do whatever we could to get and look at my first record, man. That's me playing everything on a Ghetto Blaster.
Yeah, absolutely. And having great fun doing it,
I know.
It's fantastic, but now with this stuff, it's just amazing, I mean, we briefly touched on the reamp thing before as well, which is probably worth mentioning because for what I do with Line 6 for creating, so when I shot the original sort of PodGo videos, and the firmware was sort of changing a little bit. What you can do with PodGo is you can capture the not only the actual audio that you're listening to, you can also capture the sound of exactly what's coming down the cable. So it is literally the sound of your pickups going straight into your interface. And the beauty of that is it means that you can actually go back to it later on, and then you can tweak the amps, you can add more delay, you can and it means that you never have to completely settle on a preset. You can always go back and tweak things sort of later, and it's a fantastic, for me, that PodGo's actually got that in there as well. It's another super cool feature, and it's one that, like I say, for what I do with Line 6, it's never happened. But if I thought I'd recorded a great part and then I sent it off for review, and it came back from the staff at YGG and they really hated the guitar sound, I go, that's okay, I can tweak that sound and I can change it, and I don't have to lose that video or anything like that, so if anybody's if definitely investigate reamping. It's such a great powerful feature.
It's funny, the on a slight tangent, but not really, over on my Rock Shop live show on Friday nights, I had John Cuniberti, who is Joe Satriani's producer, someone I know admire greatly as well too. He was pretty much the inventor of reamping.
Yes, I think I saw that. I didn't know that, but I did see that you posted that on sort of Facebook. Yeah, it's It was something. It's something like I never really. And going back to what we talked about before about responding to the sound and playing to the sound, it was something that I always thought with reamping that was never. It never sort of felt right to us until maybe sort of 3-4 years ago. And then once I started doing it, because I always just thought, well, if I'm reamping, then I'm not really responding to the sound that I originally was responding to. And that's true to a degree, but obviously you don't. I've never thought that riff that I played as a distorted heavy metal sound, I'd like to hear it through a Fender Twin, because that's not going to sound right. It's going to backfire because that's not how you play. But when you're just doing like little tweaks and you've maybe added to, which I had this today, I've been doing some video stuff today, and the part I'd played, I had too much delay on it. I didn't like it. I went back to it, and if I hadn't reamped the audio, I would have had to redo that whole video. And that's not fun. So I was able to just go out, reamp it, and slightly tweak the sound, knock the delay down, and I was up and running. So yeah, reamping is a big part of my life.
For sure. I do that a lot with Helix. I'll send out a USB direct track as well too, so I have a non-destructive track I can go back to and just add anything I want to it down the road, and just keep my original as a scratch track.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a great thing. So PodGo, it has all the it's ideal for I was gonna say beginners. It is ideal for beginners, but it's ideal for practicing at home with all the stuff that we just said, with all those amp models and that. But if you want to run Cubase or something like that, and you want to plug this in USB, it's just got it's got different things for live, for recording, and it's going to be ideally suited to all of those situations as well.
Agreed. We have about 2 or 3 minutes left before the end of the program, so I'm going to ask you a question here. Last Wednesday night, I did a live broadcast not late in the evening, we were at 9 o'clock at night, and I was playing 3 of my band songs, and I'd play the first version with Helix, and I'd play the same preset again on PodGo, and I'd repeat that for the next song, and did it 3 times. And the general consensus was very, very favorable as far as the tone. But this gets asked to a lot of us in the Line 6 community. Any one of us who put ourselves out there on YouTube, like myself, you, and the other people in the community, will get comments. And this is a common one. And I don't like to repeat questions from my show guests each week, but this is something I don't mind asking repeatedly. Someone says to you, Paul, does PodGo sound like Helix? What's your answer?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it totally does. I'll be honest, I haven't felt the need to A/B them sort of side by side, but I think, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when I very, very first plugged it in, and I think it was just really down to the actual sound that I dialed in. But I remember once, as talked about before, once the amp models actually appeared in my firmware, I dialed in. I remember thinking, does this sound better than Helix? Like, there was a second where it was like, this sounds really good, and it wasn't that, obviously I love the sound of Helix as well, but there was just something happened when I plugged in. I was like, oh wow, this sounds really, really good, and it maybe it was the simplicity of the signal chain that
putting in a good mood.
Things on it, I just dialed in the amp sound, and it was like, wow, yeah, this sounds great. So yes, absolutely, it's to my ears. I haven't tried them A/B side by A/B them side by side. Haven't felt the need to do that.
Right.
I plug into Helix, it sounds great to my ears, and I plug this in, it sounds great as well. So I haven't felt the need to A/B and test them side by side.
Well, I did, and it was just last week, and it was really cool because I ran like a regular guitar cable back to the rack back there, and then I had my relay right here, and the relay was running to PodGo. So what I would do is I'd play my passage, and I'd go over to my mixer and just mute so I didn't hear like bzz, like that, and then I'd switch to the other unit and play again. And you would almost want to expect, we were talking like thousands of dollars compared to less than $1,000, less than $500 for PodGo, and it shouldn't sound as good as it did. There was, to my ear, there was no zero difference. Now, I tried my very, very best between the presets I duplicated to make the volumes the same, because as soon as one preset sounds louder, someone's going to say that sounds better. So they were almost exactly the same, down to the closest fraction, and it sounded phenomenal. So I think that proved right there that they did sound the same. But as we wrap up here, this has been an absolute pleasure having you back. And I told Sandra here today, usually one for my shows, like I put every single guest, I put a lot of hours into preparing for the guest and learning the guest. And there's been some guests I don't know anything about, so I have to really, really research the guest and get in their wheelhouse. But writing a show for you is one of the easiest shows I've ever done, because you're full of knowledge. It's been a pleasure once again to have you here, and I'm just sorry we couldn't get you on earlier, but I'm happy to know that you're healthy again and playing, and it's been a fantastic Sunday afternoon with you. Yeah. It's fantastic to be back as well. And I think I'm sure you hear this a lot, but on behalf of everybody at Line 6 and sort of Yamaha Guitar Group, the community is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best things
about all the stuff now. You know, there's so much support and there's so much help, and it's the forums and everything, and you guys' names come up a whole lot inside marketing meetings and all kinds of things. You know, we really, really appreciate everything that you do. You know.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate that. I'm just glad to see you smiling playing guitar. That's the happiest thing for me here. And thanks again. We'll get a preset from you later on throughout the evening and afternoon, to wherever time zones are, and we'll make sure we link that in the description. We'll get that from you as well too. We'll also put the addendum into the description with the IR that you're talking about there as well. Give them some links to them as well too.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, go and check out the rest. I mean, that was just the first the IR that I had in that particular preset. But I mean, just go and check out the rest of the stuff that those guys do, because they're super nice guys, and they've been great with me. And every time I dial in, every time I grab a pack of their IRs, I'm always like, wow, these things sound great, you know. So yeah, so check out the free one and then head to their website as well.
Perfect. I'll look forward to playing it tonight as well too. Once I get it from you, I'll put it on. I have a nice celebrity set list on both of my Helix, and of course I'm just starting now with PodGo. And yes, you are a celebrity, whether you want to admit it or not. So I'll be looking forward to adding that to my celebrity preset list. It'll be great.
Yeah, no, indeed, I'm not a celebrity, but yeah. But yeah, thanks very much. You know, and like anytime you want us to kind of sort of come on as well, you know, that'd be great. And I'm sorry. I mean, I think next time. I mean, I think I probably should have mentioned this before, but probably I don't know. But I mean, the stuff, all the stuff that I did at Christmas, you know, for PodGo for the launch, that was all part of a new band project that I've got coming together. You know, so we actually there will be an album that's coming out. We kind of got set back by the whole state of the world at the moment, but those tracks are all going to be recorded. The drums are recorded. The bass player's working on his parts right now. So next time I come back, I'll actually play some of those tracks as well. You know.
Great. Oh, I mean, you have an open invitation, and it's almost expected. Paul has to be on every season of the Helix Hour, so you have an open invitation. So we'll have you back for sure and talk about that. That'd be great, man.
Yeah, great. We'll come back and do the Paul Hindmarsh band. Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, listen, everyone, have a beautiful rest of your Sunday afternoon. Be safe out there, and join us next week if you can. We're going to be off the Helix Hour next Sunday because it is Father's Day. But over on Rock Shop Live, we've got producer and scorer, musical genius, Ronit Kirchman. She's behind USA Network's The Sinner. She's done scoring for seasons 1, 2, and 3. Plus a lot of other great projects as well too. But we will be off the Helix Hour, I believe. Don't quote me on this one, but the following week I think we've got Eric Klein from Line 6. Will be another half of a half episode of PodGo, and then we'll be talking about new updates and Helix and things of that nature. Watch our Facebook page, facebook.com/Helix Hour, just to confirm that. I think Eric is that week. But Paul, thank you so very much. Don't go away. I'm going to say goodbye to you off the air. Everyone, thanks so very, very much for your support tuning in. It means a lot to us, and we will talk to you very, very soon. And until then, cheers.
Hey, you're still here? Eric Jr. here, reminding you to check out our full lineup of quality merch. Available right now in the Broadstash Boutique. Quality products and fast shipping. Visit broadstash.com today.
Thank you for watching the Helix Hour. We hope you enjoyed today's presentation. An extra special thank you to the staff at Line 6 for their continued support. If you've not yet subscribed, please do so right now and feel free to share our content with your friends. See you next time on the Helix Hour.